Hello and welcome to everyone across the nation joining today's workshop on how to interrupt a test in progress. This workshop focuses on interrupting delivery of CASAS eTest online. That includes how to score, abort, and suspend a CASAS web-based test from the management console as well as from the testing station. Now folks, it is a certified proctor who has the rights to perform these steps in combination with managing sessions. And let's see, I have a question posed in the chat box about recording of these sessions. The answer is yes, right now we are recording these sessions. However, they're just for in-house purposes for developing short topic-specific training videos. And we're in the process of producing those. We have a few available in the TE help documentation. I'll point them out to you. And then we will be posting all of these topics. We'll have a corresponding video to go along with them. We hope to get those posted sooner than later and apologize for the delay. And this is why we are holding these sessions live until we get those videos posted for viewing at any time. Okay. Now folks, just as a reminder for those of you who may be new to this workshop, this is simply one of 23 complimentary CASAS online implementation workshops, and you are not expected to attend all 23. However, we highly recommend attending as many as possible. This is simply a training room set up to conduct all 23 workshops. And as a reminder, on our website, from training and support, we have help documentation available for CASAS eTests as well as TOPS Pro Enterprise. I'm going to pop into TOPS Pro Enterprise for just a moment and point out here that we have some TE training videos available, such as generating reports using third-party import wizard, an export wizard, data submission demos, and manually creating students. Okay, and let me go back to the training and support here. You definitely want to bookmark the help documentation as your electronic go-to resources, particularly the CASAS eTest online guide. This guide covers information presented in these workshops. Today's workshop will cover section 4.4 in the guide. Now this is part of the section on proctor duties. Right here, section 4.4, testing irregularities. I know the topic or that section isn't titled interrupting tests, but that's part of interrupting tests, reconnecting tests, that all has to do with some sort of testing irregularity, whether it's an acceptable irregularity or an irregularity that needs to be remedied. Okay, so let me go ahead and pop over to testing irregularities here, and we'll review that in just a moment. But before we get started, I want to point out to you where you will be producing live data. This is called our production server, and that URL or that main domain name address is etestsonline.org. This is to access both CASAS eTest Online as well as TOPS Pro Enterprise Online, prefaced by TE. Now, halfway through, and as you can see here in this listing of workshops, we will begin transitioning into using TOPS Pro Enterprise next week, starting on Wednesday. So right now we're dedicating our time solely in the CASAS eTest Online application. However, once we get into TOPS Pro Enterprise and I introduce that application to you, then I help you to begin to make the connections, that direct connection between TOPS Pro Enterprise and CASAS eTest Online. Because what is occurring and being recorded through the CASAS eTest Online application is occurring simultaneously in the TOPS Pro Enterprise Online application and vice versa. Okay. Now for today's workshop, we will be using the simulation server, which is available to you to experiment and explore the online system without risk of compromising any live data. And you will find that information in the ET help documentation getting started section. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on into the workshop training for today on interrupting tests in progress. Now, just to start off here, a testing irregularity or suspected irregularity, as I mentioned a moment ago, some irregularities may be able to be resolved directly at the local agency without having to notify CASAS. The only time that you would need to notify CASAS of a testing irregularity is when something occurs with the functioning of the application itself, and that includes both CASAS eTest Online as well as TOPS Pro Enterprise Online. Okay, so in any case, the proctor, the certified proctor, is required to report to the site-based coordinator on the day of the occurrence what the irregularity may be. And most often, as I mentioned, the coordinator can remedy or resolve the issue at the local agency level, and if not, that can be elevated by submitting a testing irregularity report to CASAS. Now here are some examples of testing irregularities, and we won't go through these by detail. I'll let you review those, but most of them are not examples of notifying, well actually all of these are not examples of the need to notify CASAS. Okay, now for today, the one that we will be using for today is on interrupting a test in progress, which includes suspending, scoring, canceling, or simply returning to a test. Now this is a screenshot, and I will show this to you in the application itself. So the interrupting a test in progress can be done from the management console as well as directly at the testing station. So in some instances, a proctor may need to interrupt a test in progress using the Control+E key command. E represents exit. Okay, it's not an I for interrupted test in progress, just simply Control+E key command. Using that key command from the testing station, that presents these 4 options for interrupting that test. You have the option to score the test in progress, so there is no possibility of the student returning to that particular test form. At that point, when you choose score, that test is scored and recorded in the online system, and reports are retrievable immediately upon the recording of that test. Canceling the test, this would completely erase any answers that the student may have applied in a test form. It's as if the test never occurred. Okay, suspending a test, and we'll go into a little bit more examples, but this is just kind of a brief overview. Suspending a test is for the purpose of allowing that student to return at a future time. Now, folks, use this with caution because generally a student should not even begin to take a test if there is not enough time for the proper time allotted to complete an assessment. For example, the standard timing of pre and post assessments is 60 minutes. If it's a new student intake, you add an additional 15 minutes to each modality, or 30 minutes to each modality if you're using the appraisal. The locator is only 15 minutes. So in other words, don't start a student on a test modality if there is not enough time remaining in that dedicated time frame for the student to solely complete the assessment. The reason I emphasize that, folks, is that when you, for whatever reason, you need to suspend a test, keep in mind that making that decision should have the assurance that the integrity of that assessment will not be compromised. In other words, when students, the recommended practice, and you will learn this when you go through the coordinator and proctor certification modules, is that the recommended practice when students enter into a testing room, that they are not allowed to bring their backpacks or books or even cell phones. And this is to adhere to test security, as well as maintain an ideal testing environment. Okay, and so students should not be allowed to reference dictionaries and so forth. So we have had reports of some agencies suspending tests, allowing students to return a day, a week, a month later to complete that test. Well, folks, that begs the question, has the student been talking with other students or looking up information that they may have been presented with on that test to help them when they return to even return to some answers, change those answers, and so forth. So I think you get the picture, folks. Okay, but there are some occasions where a test does need to be suspended, and we will talk about that when I get into the demonstration of that. Now, continuing a test in progress is just that, and this is where I'm actually going to begin the demonstration. Okay, and let me pop over to the next page to have that ready here. And bring this up here, and I'm popping over to the simulation server, and as a quick refresher, the proctor goes to the main domain URL of etestonline.org. In this case, we're also going to Rolling Hills Adult School. The proctor signs in to the management console. Goes to testing sessions, starts the testing session for which they are assigned a proctor, adds the stations accordingly, goes to the testing station, brings up the web browser to the main domain name of etestonline.org, and again, this we are using the simulation server, clicks Administer Test, runs the executable file to bring up the testing application. Oops. Oh, sorry about that. Let me just go right here. Okay, so that we've actually gone through these steps, and I believe that repeating these steps for you will help you begin to put the sequence in place. Now I'm going to sign in as my sample student. Save my information because there's nothing here I need to update. Okay, and I'm going to launch into a test. Again, students are presented with basic directions. There are on all CASAS pre and post assessment forms, the student is presented with 2 practice items. Since the test items are suppressed, I don't know what I'm answering, so honestly I don't know what the correct answer is, so I'm truly guessing. And beginning the test. Folks, interrupting a test in progress, that functionality can only be done in an actual protected test. So not until the student clicks the begin button and moves into the protected test content does that does the interrupting a test in progress function come to play. Now let's just say the student is answering a few items here. Okay, so they're in a test. The test is in progress. Using the Control E, I'm going to use that now, Control plus E, I used that from the keyboard, brings up those very same options that I showed you. And what we're going to do is select Return to the Test. Now, before I do that, I just want to review this here. When we select that, that allows the student to continue the test. Actually, you know what, I am actually going to go to, let me return to the test for just a moment. Take note of the time, 59, roughly 59, and say 20 seconds. Let's say that. And let's take a few minutes and let's see, we'll confirm one way or the other whether the test timer paused during that. My hope is that it does. I can't recall for certain. But you can momentarily pause that assessment. Let's say the student was allowed to bring in their phone and they received a very important phone call they needed to take. You ask them to leave the room and then come back. Then the student can return, or you can select Return to the Test so the student can continue, or the student perhaps needs a quick bathroom break and comes back. Again, be very careful and cautious so that you have the assurance that the integrity of that assessment is not compromised. Okay. Let's see. The student then, given the opportunity to finish the test, they continue the test from the same point where the test was interrupted. Okay, and this does in fact state that if the test timer is in effect, the student will have the remaining time to complete. Now, the WTU and online test administration is only decremented when the test is finished, when the test is scored and recorded. Then you consume an online test administration. So let's go ahead and return back to that test and say Return to Test, and notice the test timer did pause. So this is good to take note. And also for test security as well. In other words, if you need to just momentarily pause without disconnecting this or suspending the test, because suspending the test has a lot more steps. So if it's just a momentary break or interruption, then it's with the expectation the student is going to return within a minute or two, then use the Control+E key command to pause the screen, pause the timer. This is test security so that you are not leaving the screen open. If you let the student walk away, the screen would be left open like this, exposing the protected test content, as well as notice the test timer is not stopping. Okay, so I think you get the picture. To use the Control+E key command to momentarily pause that assessment for whatever reason, and then let the student return to the test. Okay. Now I'm also going to use Control+E again, and this time I'm going to select Score the Test and End It Now. And just as it says here, there is no possibility of the student returning. So at this point, the test is scored and recorded, and the personal score report is presented if it is enabled. Now at this point, you will have consumed an online test administration if this is chosen. Okay. Now let me show you just briefly. Well, actually, I'll continue with this, and I'll show you the correlation from the management console. So let me go ahead and go into this here. Okay, so once a test is completed, as some of you may recall from a previous session, is that test modality button now becomes disabled, preventing the student from launching into another test of the same modality. Okay, and that is important. Now it is more clear to the student as well as the proctor of what assessment the student needs to go into next. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and launch into the math test at this point. And I'm going to get past the practice items here. And forgive me for answering incorrectly. All right, got one correct. Okay, let's go ahead. Okay, so I'm going ahead and going through a few items just so that we're kind of into the test. And so the next method for interrupting a test in progress, I'm going to again use the Control-E key command from the testing station. And this time I'm going to select Do Not Score the Test and End It Now. You can fill in the blanks for whatever reason you may need to choose to eliminate this test. In other words, what you actually are doing is aborting this assessment as if this data administration never occurred. So whatever answers I've applied so far, they will all be deleted. This test is not scored or recorded. The answers are deleted, and the student is simply returned back to the test menu. So this preserves this test form. Okay, now let me show you actually a no, I think we'll go into let me go into this for just a moment again. Okay, let's get past these here and go into that same exact test. Okay, now the student is in this test. Let me pop back over to this for just a moment. You saw what it was like to score the test from the testing station, and the student was presented with the personal score report. Right now I'm going to demonstrate again how to cancel a test, not score it, delete the answers, and so forth. But this time I'm going to choose not to do it from the testing station. I'm actually going to do it from the session activity window. So notice here, as the proctor is monitoring test administration, if I've identified that this student logged on this station is currently taking this assessment, and for whatever reason I need to cancel the test. Okay, so to do that from the session activity window, I would use the intervene button and I would abort the assessment. Using this abort is the same as selecting this right here. Do not score the test and end it now. Okay. Scoring the test is just the same, but let me, I'm going to come back to this in just a minute. I'm going to, you saw me cancel the test from the testing station using Control+E, but this time I'm going to cancel it from the session activity window and say abort and say OK. I'll just refresh the screen. Now the student is still logged in, okay, and if the student attempts to progress, the system will see that there has been an interruption, okay, and that you'll get those type of errors there. So let me go in. Now I'm going to again demonstrate how to interrupt a test by scoring it. You saw, I think the answer is B on this one here, you saw me interrupt a test a moment ago using Control-E to score the test directly from the testing station, and that provided me with a copy of the personal score report. Now if I'm in the test and the proctor chooses from the application or the session activity window from the management console, they can also choose to score the test from the session activity window. This does the same with the exception. This ends the test, scores, and records the test. This test now is recorded in the online system. However, when you use score from the session activity window, the student will not be presented with the personal score report. You'll get that type of an error that you saw me just receive on the screen. Okay, now I think I just realized I canceled both of my options here for doing another demonstration. So let me quickly create another student here. Yeah, let's see. Or I'll just use a shortened version of today. Sorry about this, folks. Sample. This will be Sample Sam. Yeah, and actually I didn't 92123. Or no, actually let me log out. Let me log out. That'll take too long. Let's do. What was the? Give me 1 second, folks. I'm trying to use a student that that hopefully we have the information in. What was the student yesterday? That number that we saw. Give me a second, folks. With a short amount of time, I don't want to take up your time. Let me just pick a student here who has demographics here. Let's see. Maybe Rick Williams, 520, 82, 16. 520, 82. Okay, let's see if that will get us okay. No, I don't think so. Okay, let me just blitz through these screens, folks. Sorry about that. All right. Okay. Let's go back here for just a moment. And okay, so I'm hoping that you're getting the idea of using the Control+E key command from the testing station compared to interrupting a test in progress from the management console through the session activity window. Essentially, you can do the same whether you're at the station or from the management console, but there are just those subtle differences, okay? So now we've gone through continuing the test, we've gone through scoring the test, as well as canceling the test. Now I'm going to suspend the test, and then the next workshop following today is on how to reconnect a suspended test. Okay, so let's go over here, back to the session activity window. Okay, so you see Rick Williams is logged in, preparing to test. So let's go into his reading test here. Okay, so let's say Rick is progressing here. Now, notice the test timer and the test item. We'll say we'll stop at, he's answered up through number 5, okay? So let's use Control-E. Actually, we've got to activate the screen. Control-E from the testing station. To suspend a test in progress, you would use the exit, student logs in at a later time to finish. This is suspending a test from the application, or from the testing station, excuse me. From the management console, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to click refresh here. Okay, you see that Rick Williams is in the process of taking his test. Okay, you can also use the intervene here to disconnect. That's the term used from the management console. Disconnect the test. What you are doing, you are not only suspending the administration of this form, but you are also disconnecting it from this active testing session. And that's important to take note, folks, because the proctor will not be able to stop this testing session if the application still has students in process of testing. And let me just demonstrate that for just a moment. If, for example, if you chose to exit from the testing station, which is the same as suspending the test, okay, you still have to remedy that suspension from the management console. Notice if I click refresh from the management console, the application, as far as it knows, Rick is still in the process of testing. However, for your assurance, the test timer is paused, just like it was for when you momentarily interrupt the test when you're using this and returning to the test, okay? We're going to go through these steps here with these little screenshots, but what I want to emphasize to you is right here, is that the test taker, whether you interrupt or suspend a test from the management console, from the session activity window, or from the testing station, the test taker, when the test taker does return at a later time, they will continue here from the same point where they left off, and the test timer will kick back in, and they will have the remaining time, the appropriate remaining time to complete the test. And once that test is officially scored or ended, it's scored and recorded, and a WTU is decremented. Okay, so now from here, from the testing station, this is what the screen looks like when you use exit, when you're suspending the test. But the proctor must still use intervene from the session activity window. The test has been suspended, exited, which is what you intended to do. But notice, actually here, I'll try to demonstrate here. If I click manage and try to stop the session, the application says that students are still taking tests. So what I actually need to do is intervene and disconnect, literally suspend this on the CASAS hosted server, detach it from this active session, and now the proctor can officially manage and stop that testing session. Okay? So folks, that's where we're going to end this this workshop here, and in a little less than 30 minutes, I hope you will all return. I hope you are truly in a suspended, or feel the suspense, there you go, of my having suspended that test in progress. So please return to understand how to reconnect the suspended test, and I'll also bring in a couple of other examples why you would need to suspend a test on one workstation and redirect the student to another computer, or redirect them to another test, or whatever the case may be. I'll leave all that discussion for the next session. But in the meantime, do you have any questions on the information that I have showed you with regards to using, so far, using these 4 options for interrupting a test in progress? Okay, I'll end it with saying that most everything that I've shown you here is, even though it's under the category of a testing irregularity, it was just simply to demonstrate how to interrupt a test in progress for one reason or another. Some of these could apply to if the application is not behaving properly, and if that is the case, if your proctors needed to interrupt a test in progress, whether from the testing station, say if the screen froze, or from the management console, if it is deemed that that interruption was caused by a malfunction or anomaly occurrence with the application itself, then ask the proctor to submit a testing irregularity to the site-based coordinator so that the site-based coordinator has the necessary information such as the session name, station name, the student ID, the name of the student, what test form they were working on, and a brief description of what occurred during that irregularity or anomaly. And then it's up to the certified coordinator or the site-based coordinator to determine whether to forward this information on to CASAS. Okay, so folks, with that, we're going to end this workshop, and I hope to see all of you back in just about 25 minutes for reconnecting a test in progress. Thank you so much for your time.